Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Norma Juarez. I am a proud alumna and staff member in UNC's Alumni Relations Office. Thank you all for joining us today for the Alumni Career Panel, Government Careers. We are honored to be hosting such an amazing group of alumni. Today, we will gain insight from experienced alumni working in local, state, and federal government. But before we get into the question portion of today, I will share a couple of housekeeping items with you all. So the event is being recorded and will be available on demand in the next couple days on the alumni website. And I will post the link in the chat for you all to have access to. If you would like to reach out to our panelists, I will also be sharing their contact information in the chat feature. And last, I will go off screen after our introductions and we'll return towards the end of the event to provide a closing statement. Now, please help me welcome our panelists. Alton, we'll start with you. Can you please introduce yourself by stating your name, title, company, UNC degree, and by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Alton Dillard. I'm the communications manager for the Denver County Clerk and Recorder. I am a 1986 graduate of the University of Northern Colorado, where I studied journalism and mass communications. I was a 5-year West Campus guy, 2 years Turner, 3 years Lawrenson. And I have worked in all 3 levels of government. I've worked 15 years in municipal. I worked 12 years as United States Senate press secretary and also did 6 months worth of contract work at the state level.
Thank you. Alex.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Renteria. I am the Public Information Officer for Denver International Airport. And what that means is anything great news, I try to shout out to the rooftops, whether it's through media interviews or social media, and anything that's not so great news, I try to make it sound like it's not so bad. I graduated UNC in 2010. I lived in Turner, and then I lived in my sorority house. I was actually in the Delta Zeta sorority, and I loved my time at UNC. I hope you guys are enjoying it too, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Alex. Zach.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Zach Rakhai, and I am the Administrative and Community Services Director for the City of Pasco in Washington State. I am a 2004 grad with an applied geography degree and took up residence at Harrison Hall and the University Apartments way off over on the east side for a couple of years there, but enjoyed my time at UNC, opened a ton of doors, and really glad to be back and talking with everyone.
Thank you. Gloria?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gloria Owusu, and I am a small business program manager with the City and County of Denver. So I work to improve the access for small minority women-owned businesses to work on city contracting opportunities. I graduated in 2006 with a bachelor's in political science. I have experience at the federal level, the state level, and now the local level. So I'm really excited to be here. I lived in Turner, Lawrenson, and then Arlington Park Apartments. I don't know if those are still there, but I lived there. So I'm really excited to be here on this panel, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Gloria. Now I will hand it over to Professor Richard Bowness, who will be our moderator this afternoon. Richard?
Thank you, Norma. Yeah, I'm Richard Bonus, and I teach in political science and international affairs. I've been here at UNC for 11 years now. I'm an associate professor, and my area of specialty for research is South Asia, and especially Nepal. And I would like to start us off by asking the panelists if they could relate their current job to their experience at UNC. So what kind of jobs, internships, coursework, or other experiences helped set them up for their current industry or previous jobs they've had in the public sector? So maybe if we could start with Alton.
All right, I'll make sure to come off mute this time. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm a graduate of the journalism school, and so I was actually on track to be a television reporter. I graduated into the mid-'80s recession, so I worked a variety of jobs, including being a rent-a-car shuttle bus driver and some light industrial temp work. And then I finally got an offer from a station in Chattanooga, Tennessee when I was getting ready to turn 30 and could not work for $12,000 a year. So I'd been volunteering on a United States Senate campaign and actually got brought onto that Senate staff. Started out as a press assistant, and then after that, March 3rd of 1995, my senator switched parties and I became a crisis communications specialist. And that is kind of my reputation, and that's what's laid out my career since. As a JMC grad, I took all the basics of television production, radio production, photography, graphic arts, which I absolutely stunk at. So, you know, I believe in the gods and clods theory. You can't all be good at everything. And I am not very good with graphic arts, but I was good with photography. I was pretty much a star news writing student. And so those classes, even though I ended up getting out of the quote unquote journalism field, now I'm a disseminator of information as opposed to a hunter and gatherer of information.
Thanks a lot, Alton. And I guess we're going in order of graduation date. So Zach, if you could reply to that question.
Yeah, certainly. I think like many people that chose to attend UNC, I was initially going to be my intention was initially to be a high school teacher. So entering the geography program, which is a passion of mine with a history minor, that was my direct coursework. Midway through my sophomore year, I realized I liked GIS and cartography. So I was going to make maps, whether it was for the federal government, aviation companies, something like that. But I needed an internship to graduate the program from the geography department. City of Greeley planning office took me on. And I ended up doing 2 semesters at 20 hours a week as an intern with the city of Greeley, which opened my eyes to saying, hey, I like serving my community in this regard. And it's a great group of people and everything. In fact, my second semester, my senior year, I stayed on for 20 hours without course credit, just to gain that experience, which, you know, sort of hustling and getting into the city government and learning that way helped me set up my first job with the city of Loveland, which I got 2 weeks before my graduation in '04. Decidedly different job market than today, I understand. But just being able to learn and just utilizing the community around us in Greeley had certainly helped me set my course for my career.
Thanks a lot, Zach. And Gloria, if you could address the same question.
Sure. So what drew me to UNC was the small amount of, students in each course, the small course sizes. And I really just enjoyed the campus feel. I toured CU and it just didn't have the right feel. And I got to know the political science department quite a bit. And I, before going into UNC, I had a lot of questions about politics and international affairs. I'm a first-gen American. My parents had immigrated from Ghana. And so I really had this desire to make an impact, to do public service, to work internationally. And so luckily, UNC had a fantastic political science department. I took a lot of courses in Africana studies as well. And I was fortunate to be selected into the Ronald E. McNair Postbaccalaureate program, which prepared me for grad school. And through that program, I was able to just learn about presenting, about research. And I had an amazing group of people that I worked alongside. And I really got mentored from one of the former professors at UNC, who really took me under his wing and showed me what to do. And so it was a great experience. I feel like the time at UNC just propelled me into what I wanted to do. It took some time, but I was able to find my footing. After I graduated from UNC, I went on to do an internship at the State Department in Washington, D.C. and kind of learn what it would take to do a foreign service. And then I went into grad school at DU for international development. And so it propelled me in a way that I couldn't have imagined. And so I'm really grateful for everything that I learned as being a part of the political science department at UNC as a whole.
Thank you, Gloria. And yeah, as a political science professor, we're especially grateful. You were before my time here, but I'm sure the other professors will remember you, so I will ask them about you. So, and let's turn to Alex, if you could address the same question.
Yes. So I am a, how do you call it when your parents went there and your sister went there? So there's a word in like the sorority bill, and I can't remember what it was. Legacy, yes, thank you. And there was a lot to being a UNC Bear. When my parents would drive up there, and like the colors behind me, I bet you guys are experiencing these beautiful fall colors, but like Gloria mentioned, it was a smaller class sizes. It was close to home. I'm from Denver, but far enough away that I didn't go home that often, but I could if I wanted to see my mom and dad. But prior to attending UNC, I got an internship with Inroads. And I don't know if anyone's heard of Inroads before, but it's for students of color. I'm Latina. And I was really lucky, and I felt so guided through what are my steps? What's going to be my major? Because it's really hard to understand what that is. It's difficult to know what you want to be for the rest of your life. So within that, I got an internship through Quest Communications. I was on their marketing team throughout my entire college career. So I would drive to downtown Denver where the Quest building used to be, and then I would work remotely. And that's what got me into being in communications. And then I wanted to tap into my Spanish language. I did not learn it growing up, so I minored in Spanish. But there was so much, that I looked forward to and going to UNC, and it gave me so many opportunities.
Thanks a lot, Alex. And then I'm going to go around again, asking you to, if you had to put your advising hat on for current students, maybe even freshmen, sophomores, what kind of advice would you give them to try to get a job after graduating, especially focusing on the public sector? And I guess this is connected to another question which Norma has put up there, which is what is it that the public sector is looking for in applicants, and how can you shape your resume and your experience, especially in the current job climate, to be attractive to the public sector? So I'll start with Alton on that question.
All righty, and I want to co-sign something that Zach said, and also want to point out to those attending the common thread of internships. Those are what gets you ready for the world. I was lucky enough to be able to parlay an alumni connection into an internship at the old KNUS radio, and that parlayed into another internship at 9 News, and that parlayed into a full-time 40-hour paid internship at the ABC News Bureau. And Zach also talked about hustle. When I went to UNC was on quarters. We wouldn't get out of college until like June 12th, and you're competing in the job and internship market against other students who've been out since mid-May. So you really had to hustle. So keeping that network solid is a big thing. And to the second part of your question, Professor, is like every other sector, there's contraction. And so what people are looking for are the ability to do more than one position. Using my office here as an example, our guy who runs our ballot processing room is actually by trade a graphics artist. Our guy who does GIS is actually a former stuntman. So everyone here wears 2 or 3 different hats. I serve as chief spokesman. I also do some of our social media, and I also serve as staff photographer. So the Denver taxpayers are getting, I'm going to say, 2.5 jobs for the price of 1 out of me.
Thanks a lot, Alton. And we'll turn to Zach with the same question.
Sure, I think we define a lot of that as other duties as assigned. And the department I oversee here in the city of Pasco encompasses everything from parks, recreation, to facilities, to Muni Court, to IT. So there's a very diverse area there. So I think developing your skills to be a generalist and have an interest in a lot of different things would enable you to be more marketable to government. But if there's attendees on the webinar today that are just, they're in a conventional degree, like a business degree or an accounting degree, we're always looking for that. You don't necessarily have to have a public administration degree or a political science degree to join a local government. Every city I've worked for, and I've done 4 in Colorado, 2 here in Washington State, we're always looking for great accountants. We're looking for good engineers to help with the public development process, the development of the vital and essential utilities to serve the communities. Diversity, inclusion, and equity is it's always important, but it's more important these days than when I started in government. So students that have those viewpoints of every community that could possibly exist to help out, and help contribute to the team. And really even a business degree, economic development, and providing a forum from the city to attract high-paying jobs and diversify, work with small business, having a business background and knowing that, finance, accounting, all great skills for government. And we're all looking for that. So if you're looking for a conventional job, don't forget to check out the city websites to see about employment there. And you don't necessarily have to have a poli-sci or a public administration degree.
Okay, thanks a lot for all that advice, Zach. And Gloria, if you could answer the same question.
Sure. So I would recommend that, while you're at UNC, you take advantage of those extracurricular programs. Like I mentioned, the McNair program, it's a part of the TRIO program. So that helps, underrepresented minority students kind of get a leg up and help them kind of, figure out where they want to go. I know there's the honors programs. I know there's so many different, avenues to get connected outside of just going to class, just being involved that way. I know McNair really helped me on a path to going after an internship at the State Department. So it's always great to have those kinds of programs to complement your classes. And in terms of, finding the right career, I know it took me some time. After grad school, I graduated in 2009 when the economy just went, belly up. It was a rough time. And I had high expectations of what my career was going to look like, but I had to let those go in order to survive. And for me, I had to be creative. I had to ask questions of a lot of people. I went on, Facebook and connected with people that I used to, go to school with and ask them questions about their career. So it wasn't as easily defined, but I found my way eventually. And I know that for me, I had to take jobs that, I was overqualified for, but I had to. But at the same time, I realized now I needed those positions to get to where I'm at, because you learn different skills everywhere you're placed. And there's that saying, bloom where you're planted. I think as you graduate, you have to accept the fact that there may be jobs that, you may not think you're right for right now, but it may be the right position to get you to where you need to go. And so you can't underestimate networking at the same time, because you never know who you're going to meet and you never know what they're going to do for you, but they see you performing at a high level. So that's my piece of advice. And, at the city, I work in economic development. There's all sorts of opportunities. And I was fortunate enough to network with the right people to get me into the position that I am right now.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. And Alex?
Yes, the beauty about government is there's a lot of room for movement. So for the city of Denver, for example, if you were to be at the Denver International Airport, you could easily move to the sheriff's office in a different role, or where Alton is in elections. And just like Gloria said, entry-level positions are, no one's too big for that, especially once you graduate from college. It's easy to start to learn about an organization, learn about what you're actually interested in. Once you get there, start networking within that organization. And also, this is something I didn't start thinking about until I hit my 30s, but retirement. If you get into an organization at a much earlier age, you can hit that maximum retirement amount and be living pretty great once you hit that age. But that's something that I didn't think about. I was in the private sector prior to coming to the city, but my husband worked for the federal government. He's been there for 11 years. So by the time I'm old and gray and still working, he'll be, on the beach calling me, telling me about his, margarita. But get into somewhere, don't be afraid to start at an entry level, and then you can figure out what you really want to do once you're in there. Thanks
a lot, Alex. And that actually links well to a question sent to me by a student by email. And this student says, is it preferable to have worked in the private sector before moving to the government sector or the public sector? Is that sort of preferential route if you work in the business first? So would anybody like to answer that? It doesn't have to be any particular order. Alton.
Yes, I'm going to tackle that one because that's kind of a yes or no, because we are the stewards of the taxpayer dollar, it's a whole different setup. I'm only slightly joking when I say it's easier to move $1 million contract than it is to get $30 out of my office manager. That's only a slight exaggeration. And so some people come from the private sector and they see the pace, especially of municipal government, to be a little slower than they're used to. And this is no shade on the hardworking men and women of Denver and our IT department or anything like that. But if you're a private sector person, you show up day one to a box of business cards and a box of cell phones. and a computer there where you can just log on and off and running. Local government, sometimes not so much. You have to get a snow ticket, a support ticket in to make sure you have that. You may not get your business cards, you know, for 5 or 6 weeks because they want to make one bulk order. So it's good to have those kind of transferable skills for sure, but you have to really think in terms of what kind of pace works the best for you.
Okay, thanks, Alta. Would anybody else like to address that, especially in terms of other people you know in government? Have many, what proportion do you think have come from the private sector, and what proportion started in the government sector? Maybe someone would like to address that.
I can try. We just hired, I have a counterpart who's a public information officer. And so I'm using this as an example. Did I look to see where she was before, whether she was in government or not? No, but I made sure that she was within a complex organization, and then she had the skills to digest really complex topics and then talk about them in a really user-friendly way. So I think that it's important that you have a variety of skills that you can speak to. But I don't think it necessarily matters, at least from my purview, whether you came from government or private, but bring your patience, like Alton said, because sometimes things take a little bit longer. There's more bureaucracy when you work for the government.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Did anybody else want to add anything?
I was just going to say that the model of government is not to turn a profit. So that's a big change. I'd say the majority of the folks that work with me at the city here did not start out in government, nor did they think they were working there. They're looking for customer service, but you know, or an accounting job or something like that. Our new economic development manager came from the news media, was a news anchor. So I mean, there's all sorts of avenues into this position. But I think great communications, being able to distill complex issues into something simple, I think goes a long way. Okay,
thanks. So just shifting gears slightly and taking up some stuff that you've already talked about. Could you talk about the value of diversity in your job and how that maybe has changed over time in your careers, and how addressing diversity now amongst, you know, with students, and how they can think of applying ideas related to diversity to getting a job in the public sector? So maybe, I don't know, starting with Alton.
Yeah, as Zach mentioned, there is a huge focus and a huge lens on that. And see, the thing I like about municipal government, it is truly government closest to the people. So I call myself a pothole guy. You know, I love the work that happens at the state capitol and in Congress and all that. But I really like the ability to be able to call my city council person's office and get an update on how the bicycle underpass is coming along. And so a lot of local governments are really putting an emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. As a matter of fact, we just lost someone from the city and county of Denver who became the chief equity officer in San Diego within the past 6 weeks. And so, like a lot of other sectors, you will see our sector starting to put more and more and more emphasis on that, because everyone should be able to participate in their civic life. And one of the things that we message, even if you can't vote per se by dropping off a ballot, that should not shut you out from a good constituent service. It should not shut you out from being able to still have a voice in your community. And I know this is kind of a naive way to look at this, but as someone who's worked in the United States Senate, I'm a big believer that once you're elected, the politics ends and you serve the public regardless of whether they voted for you, whether they have a DR or unaffiliated or anything like that. But I know, especially in my sector of elections administration, I am one of the few senior African Americans in the business. And so we're always looking for people to join the world of elections. But it's also something that you can go to school for it. There's a graduate certificate program at the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School in elections administration. And I just completed my last physical class for going forward. So I will actually have a certification through Auburn for elections administrators, which is the highest certification in the world of elections administration. And so if you bring your flavor, whether it's your language, what you look like, your accent, bring that to the community you want to serve.
Thanks a lot, Alton. And Zach, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I think understanding the value of diversity is just understanding that communication styles and what potentially could be good for one side of town may not be necessarily good for the other side of town. I don't mean to be divisive like that, but just knowing that how you communicate with certain residents may, and it goes to the medium of communication. You know, you may have a segment that doesn't go on Facebook, so don't broadcast there. They like an open forum. They like direct outreach, postcards. So I think being humble is key, and understanding that the cultures and the doctrine with which you may have grown up, in my case, would be completely different than the communities that you serve, and to be open to listening and working with your diverse staff members to say, okay, how can we better our outreach here? How can we be more equitable in our programs for new libraries and new parks to make sure that everyone is served on an equal basis? And then how do we communicate that to a big group? So being open to changing communication styles and just being inclusive, I think, is key.
Thanks a lot, Zach. And Gloria?
Yeah, so I mean, I echo a lot of what Alton was saying. I mean, we both work at the city and county of Denver, as is Alexis, and DEI work is top of mind for the mayor and, all the agencies. And he's really, telling all these agencies, you have to be accountable for the work that you do and making sure that it's equitable, which is huge. And that, my office, so I work in the Division of Small Business Opportunity. So our goal is to ensure that economically and socially disadvantaged small businesses have access to city contracting opportunities. So when you think about a lot of the work that's happening at the airport or the convention center, the National Western Center, traditionally, small minority women-owned businesses have been left out. So now our office works to make sure that that doesn't happen, that a lot of these big prime contractor companies are utilizing these small businesses so that they can get a piece of the profit. And that is top of mind. And, it's such a huge thing for the economic development of our city that small businesses don't get left behind. And I think DEI work is so important. I mean, with everything that's happened in the last few years, people are educating themselves on what diversity means, what equity means, inclusion means, and it's a learning curve for a lot of people. They never really had to focus on that. I mean, when I worked for the state, we really didn't focus. We'd have a workshop here or there, but that's it. But now it's like, it has to be in the forefront. You have to think, especially in the work that we do as public servants, we got to think equity. Like and it's important. So I would encourage anybody that, no matter what field you go into, make sure you understand what that means. Have those tough conversations, ask those questions that you may not feel comfortable asking, because how are you going to learn if you don't ask those questions? So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. And Alex?
On all of our interview panels, we now always have an EDI question. We call it EDI. Some people call it DEI, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So prepare yourself. Know what that means for you. Are you white, cis, male? That's okay. There's a seat at the table for everyone, and this shouldn't be a scary conversation, but you should understand what that means. And you should also feel comfortable enough to be able to talk about why that is important, why everyone's voice brings a lot to an organization, why everyone's opinion and beliefs bring a lot. And then also come with your understanding, because some people may not agree and it's frustrating. I know I serve on the EDI team at the airport, and there are a lot of people who don't understand EDI, and it's important to come with understanding that not everyone's going to be on the same page, but the goal is that we all get to that page and to that place where we understand the importance of EDI.
Well, thanks a lot for all those great answers, really important answers. I'm going to add in a practical question that I'm guessing a lot of the students listening will want to know the answer to, which is how do you go about getting internships? Because a lot of you have already talked about the importance of internships in building a career in the government sector. Do you have any practical advice? Where should people write to? How much should they write? What kind of cover letter, in other words, should they use? What kind of agencies should they turn to try to find an internship? So yeah, maybe let's start with Alton on that one, perhaps.
Yeah, well, my internship path, again, started from an alumni connection. And so I just want to get one thing in here. I work for an independently elected official within the city and county of Denver, because I do know that we do have a citywide internship program. Most of the students who intern with us are sort of on that, poli-sci kind of track. But, one of the things that we look for is someone who's going to be a self-starter and a go-getter. Because, and I'm always careful with this statement, because this is no shade on people who go into like the administrative track on their career. But if you're investing in a full-blown college education, when you crack that internship door, don't be afraid to ask to get your hands dirty. So at my radio internship, I was filing and I'm like, I didn't go to school for this. I want to actually do radio. And by the time that internship ended, I was actually producing on-air spots for the 1984 Summer Olympics. So you have to be able to make that ask once you're in. The other thing that we're looking for is flexibility. Because in my line of work here at elections, you have sort of ebbs and flows, but because we mailed out ballots back on October 8th, we are in full bore mode. And so one of our interns is going to have to meet me downtown at 3:30 in the morning on election day for the morning news cycle. So having that kind of flexibility built into your schedule, even if you have to have a paying job to work around it, I think is a key thing.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alton. And Zach?
Yeah, I think I got my internship through a sort of an internship fair that the geography department put on back in 2003. I think is when I started at City of Greeley. But I think if you're looking for internships in government, Colorado-based resources would be check out CML, Colorado Municipal League. They're the lobbying group on behalf of the Colorado local governments, but they have contacts with cities across the state. You may luck out with a internship in a really cool mountain town and get to live there for a summer or something. That'd be really cool. Colorado City and County Managers Association, reach out to them. A woman named Denise in that organization knows all the city managers and be able to help with placements there for anything. Direct contact to cities. So if you're interested in finance, accounting, business, diversity, equity, and inclusion, feel free to write out. When I worked for the small town of Severance, north of Windsor, a geography student contacted me just to help with GIS and mapping. Cities, especially that small of the town when I worked there, always looking for free labor in a sense, but those sorts of things. Just find your area and just reach directly out to the staff members, managers, look on the websites. And to echo what Alton said, I think just the flexibility. I'm the kind of leader that'll give you, I need step D, but I'll empower you to come up with steps A, B, and C to get there. To be able to be creative and be flexible and really hustle. I made coffee at the City of Greeley, but I also helped with demographic trends reports. So just kind of get everything there to get that down on your resume and go for it.
Well, that's great. And thanks for giving us those specific websites. I'm sure that'll be useful when I'm advising students, and I'm sure people listening will want to look those up. Gloria, do you have anything to add there?
Sure. So I got an internship at the State Department in DC, and I just applied through usajobs.gov. They had an internship position, and I wasn't sure it was going to go anywhere, but lo and behold, they contacted me, and it was a paid internship. And I was very excited about that. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in Denver. So I wanted to see what it would be like to live and work in DC. And so I was fortunate enough to get that opportunity. So, don't limit yourself if you're not sure if you want to build your career in Colorado, look at other states and see what opportunities and internships they have there. Specific to Denver economic development, we do have internships. It's on the city website. We are always looking for interns to help with a lot of the development projects. I know for my division, we're looking for people to do research. I do a lot of programs, so I need assistance with programs. And it's always good to reach out to someone who's already working there. And I think a lot of the students on this panel have some connections, which is great through this panel, so that we can help you with that as well. So
Great, thanks a lot. And Alex?
The only thing I'll add, because everyone, great job. For anyone who wants to live and work in the Denver area, you can visit Andrew Hudson's jobs list. That's again, Andrew Hudson's jobs list. And there are amazing, not only job, but internship opportunities on there. And a lot of them are paid. So that's just one of the many websites that, list that kind of stuff. But I think it's important that you know that, of course, there are I did lots of unpaid internships, but there are lots of paid internships as well.
Great. This is all tremendous practical advice. This is wonderful. And if kind of on the same topic, could any of you tell me whether you've been able to leverage the UNC alumni network in your time at work, or whether you've managed to maintain those connections to other UNC alumni? That would be interesting, I'm sure, to some of the students listening. Maybe. You don't all have to answer, but yeah, Alton.
Yeah, I was able to, that first radio internship that I talked about, my professor named Terry Wing said, hey, we have an alum who's at KNUS radio. Her name is Gretchen Ely. So I reached out to her, and that again is what set me on the internship path. I also am one of the newer members of the Alumni Association board. And so getting a chance to really reconnect with the campus, reconnect with the community up there, reconnect with old classmates through that has been great. And I'm going to keep hammering this. It's all about the network. So I'm certainly going to be reaching out to Gloria, who I've never met face to face, but that's how we keep our bare network going. So I'm a big believer in, if you see somebody, I'm a big LinkedIn person, because you can segment that by, who came from your university, or you can segment it by who works for the city and county of Denver, the state of Colorado. And you just never know, because anyone who's in these seats, we don't want to be the onlys. We don't want to be the first, especially in the DEI world. We have an obligation to reach back and pull this next generation forward with us to help you all prepare.
Thank you, Alton. And Zach?
Yeah, to be honest, I've reconnected with the alumni network just recently in the last couple of years. And a lot of it was just making connections with people that I attended UNC with. And LinkedIn is a big factor as well. Certainly the benefit of reaching out and being able to help the UNC community in this capacity today has been great. But it's also been great just to get to know others in the area. And it was nice to get field passes and have a little party when UNC played Washington State in football a couple seasons ago. But it was great to meet alumni that live in Eastern Washington as well. So maintaining those connections, LinkedIn has been great professionally to make those reconnections and new connections. And that's where I maintain.
Thanks a lot, Zach. And Gloria?
I honestly didn't take advantage of my network after I graduated, and I kind of wish I had. It's great. And, now that I've been re-engaged, especially through this panel, I look forward to just being connected with fellow alums in Denver area.
And great. And Alex?
So as I mentioned, I was a part of the Delta Zeta sorority. I was also a part of MECHA. I see a MECHA friend on here, Chris Garcia. And I like to be very random, and I will send Chris job opportunities in the city of Denver. He's not in the city of Denver. He's in Greeley, and he's been there. So everybody close your ears if you work with Chris. But that's how I like to stay connected to people. I like to send people job opportunities a lot, especially when it comes to that's Denver International Airport, because we're looking for talented individuals. And a lot of those individuals are coming from UNC. I know I'm a little biased, but it's True. So that's how I like to stay connected is, not only on that personal level, but on that professional level.
Yeah, on a similar topic, is there anything any of you think UNC could be doing to nurture those alumni networks more? I mean, are there any types of events or programs that we could be doing to improve our fostering of these kind of networks? I mean, yeah, you don't have to go in order. If anybody has a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to hop in because that's something, of course, we've been discussing on the alumni board. Now, keep in mind, we have to get the pandemic disclaimer in there. And so parts of 2020 felt like it dragged on forever. Parts of 2020 felt like it went like this and it was just a lost year. So that's one of the reasons, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I had been kind of resistant just because I also coach high school basketball and have a bunch of other commitments. But now that I'm really seeing the fruits of my academic labor, there's no way I could say no once I was approached again about joining the alumni board. And so trust me, at the Alumni Association level, we're definitely having these discussions about what can we do to make sure that people don't just get their sheepskin and disappear. What can we do to stay engaged? What can we do to stay engaged to out-of-state chapters, to Zach's point? What can we do to make sure that we keep that pipeline going? And I'm very proud because one of my former basketball players is on the football team up there. And so that helps me bridge the gap between being 58 and him being 19 and all the bears that we can get in between.
Thanks a lot, Alton. Thanks for your work on that. And did anybody else have a comment on that? Okay, well, let's turn to the final question we had on the list from Norma, which is a sort of broader question, more philosophical one. If you could talk to your younger self and how about how you might prepare yourself for your career, what advice would you give your younger self, speaking from the point of view of the present? So let's start with Alton on that question.
If I could give some advice to my younger self, it'd probably be just a little more assertive. You know, I'm kind of a chill, mellow kind of guy, but I also, some of the things that I would advise my younger self to do, I actually did. And that's why I'm always going to continue to hammer two things: the importance of networking, and you never know who you're talking to. The United States Senator I ended up going to work for, I met him when I was driving the rent-a-car shuttle. And as a mass comm major, a lot of people don't know that the National Association of Basketball Coaches meets in whatever city the NCAA Final Four goes to. So even when I was out there making $5 an hour driving a rent-a-car bus, I had a 7 to 8 minute captive audience that got me in front of broadcasters from CBS News, that got me in front of people who worked for the NCAA, that got me in front of head coaches of teams like Georgetown and big Division I schools. So the thing I would have done a little differently is kept that going once I stopped becoming a shuttle bus driver. Now, of course, since I've been a professional communicator for 30 years, I've got the elevator speech nailed. But that's a skill that I learned once I got over to the hump and more on a career path. And I wish I would have had the elevator speech a little more down pat as a younger man.
Thanks a lot, Alton. And Zach, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I think I would probably told myself to study a bit more at UNC, but that had nothing to do with the university. I think that was my own personal habits there. But form your habits now because it's easier than it is when you're approaching 40 like myself. But I think what I would have done had I had an earlier inclination that I was going into government would be to take those public policy and poli-sci courses. If there's general civics, learn that. Obviously, communications is key. That's going to be key with any career thing. But I also say that as a white male too, is to take like a Hispanic studies course, an African studies course to kind of broaden and open yourself up to those experiences and just try to learn and be open to more of those. just more of a diverse population than what you grew up with. And I think that certainly helps. That certainly would help me.
Thanks a lot, Zach and Gloria.
I think I would have told myself to take breaths, don't be so hard on myself, and just enjoy the moment. Because I feel like a lot of the time I was so focused on the destination, like I'm going to get through this degree, it's going to get me here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And I didn't take the time to like enjoy my experience, to really just take it in, to be present with my classes. I was just so focused on where I needed to go. And I think it's just like when you're so focused on the outcome, you just miss so much, and anything can change at any moment. You're not guaranteed anything. And for me, it was just like, okay, I take advantage of every opportunity that I have. I know how hard it can be to get to where you really ultimately want to go. But as long as you're patient with yourself and you're persistent and you trust in yourself, you'll get to where you need to be.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. And Alex?
My advice to my younger self would be to let go of the little things. Life moves really fast. I feel like I was just at UNC, and that's where I made still to my best friends to this day. They're the people who I call when I'm in crisis or when I have great news. And I remember, being so upset over a bad grade or a breakup or, something that I said to somebody that I thought was not the right thing to say, and just let those little things go. We're all doing this life together, and it's just be kind to yourself.
Well, thanks a lot for those comments. And we still have quite a few attendees. Would anybody amongst our attendees like to ask a question? This is your opportunity to ask any kind of question to the panelists. What personal qualities have been further developed by your careers in government? So yeah, would anyone like to address that? Yeah, Alton.
Learning patience, because like I was talking about earlier with the difference in the sectors between a profit-driven private sector versus a service-driven public sector, it really has taught me to, take the foot off the gas a little bit and just maybe put on a little more brake. And so I think that's something that I've definitely learned. I've also definitely learned just overall patience, because in my prior position, in addition to being a spokesperson, I also did constituent service. And so that is what's formed my way of performing constituent service, because we've all been the person who gets put on hold for 20 minutes or transferred around to 4 different people. And once you've been on that side of the equation, it makes you not want to put the public you serve through a similar situation. So I would say that patience is the one virtue that I've carried from my professional career into my career, but also my personal existence.
Thanks a lot, Alton. Did anybody else want to address that student question? Yeah, Zach?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is the communication styles that you are comfortable with are not going to be the only communication styles you're going to have to deal with. As much as I want to train the public and our clients to not use my phone, but email me, they're still going to use my phone. So I'm going to have to deal with being on the phone, which I don't like. But really, it's just to kind of, humble yourself and realize that you're going to have to be uncomfortable at times. You're going to have to deal with confrontation, deal with communication styles that aren't your favorite. But that's all how it goes to serve your community, diverse communities, anyone, in your constituency. So you can't be one-dimensional at all.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, Gloria?
I think for me, the biggest lesson that I've learned, especially working in public service, is to not take things personally. I know a lot of the times when you are in the forefront, I hear a lot of complaints. You can't satisfy everybody, you can't make everybody happy. And I think the biggest lesson for me was to leave it at work and to not bring it home, because it is personal. I do want to see small businesses succeed. But at the same time, there's challenges along that road. And for me, it's like, I feel like being in government, I've developed another layer of skin, because you have to, because it will break you. It is heartbreaking sometimes with situations that you have to deal with, but you have to just remind yourself, this is work. I'm a servant. I'm not going to take it personal. We're all in this together.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. And Alex, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I say that I've had to sharpen my collaboration skills. You go through college and it's like competition, who's the best in class, who's doing better. And then I have a problem. I'm a little competitive in my life in general. Like my friends don't even want to play board games with me. But I've had to learn that in order for my success is your success. Another person on my team, a different department, I want everyone to succeed. And that's how it is when you're in government or really in any job. So it's important to collaborate and want to work with others, even if they're not just like you.
Well, thanks a lot for those amazing replies. And Norma, did you want to draw things to a close? Should we, I think we've covered most of the questions.
Yeah, before we go, there is one last question in the Q&A. And I want to see if anybody can answer it before we go. The question is, who are your mentors and what have you learned from them? Or what do you want to gain from them?
I can answer this one. I have a lot of mentors. And they're Latina women who I went to because I thought it would be important for me to see someone who looks like me in a role that I might not have before. And I've absolutely nourished those relationships. I've met these women right after college, and I've continued that. So whether it's their birthday or whether I have a question about something or I want to update them on something about my life, it's really important to nurture that. And I was a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I still have, my little sister and I met when she was 7 and she just graduated from high school. So it goes both ways, like making sure that you're nurturing those connections, whether you're supporting someone or they're supporting you.
Did anybody else want to add something?
Yeah, I'll go ahead, Zach.
All right, I think I've got a couple of mentors that have been city managers of mine that I've worked for. I have people that are on my staff that are below me on the org chart that I draw inspiration from as well. And a lot of it just comes into communication styles, working for smaller cities, certainly than the city and county of Denver, but there's more direct management of a volunteer, non-professional city council. So there's some times where I tuck away emails that I get from that I'm copied on from my boss as like, oh, I got to file this away because that's a great way of wording something. And then just keeping in contact with your associations. I build a lot of what I call lateral mentors. So people that are in the same position as I am. There's a lot of regionalism in my corner of Washington State. So meeting with other parks directors, other economic developers, other IT professionals, just having a cup of coffee has certainly provided that. So mentors don't necessarily have to be above you, but certainly lateral to your level. And you can certainly learn from the people that you hire as well.
Yeah, peer mentorship is a big thing. And again, I know both Alex and we are in the public information space. And so we've got that comms hat. And that's one of the reasons I'm a big believer in communications degrees, because it's a transferable skill. Once you learn, like we've talked about, to be able to take some of the government speak out of it and get rid of the acronyms and bring the language down out of the ivory tower and just communicate across to the constituencies you serve, then you're really making good progress. My 2 mentors, of course, I'm flirting with 60, who they both shuffled off this mortal coil, but one of them was an MD, PhD from Harvard, who when I met him when I was 7, I did not know he owned the apartment building that he lived in. And another one is a former state senator who introduced me to politics when I was 12 years old. And so one of the things I love about my job in elections administration is now I get to be 100% totally neutral. So when people are like, what about that school board candidate and what they said, I just get to shrug. What about that ballot issue? I got nothing for you. So, but like Zach was saying, mentorship can come at the peer level. It can go up, it can go down. I'm one of those people, even though as a 30-year veteran of what I do, I'm not afraid of learning from the next generation. They're helping me polish up my social media skills. They help me when it comes to, okay, how do we reach the 18 to 24-year-old demographic that still doesn't want to vote because they're so disillusioned what they see on TV. So I'm really enjoying that. So that's an excellent question.
Gloria, did you want to add something before?
No, I just echo what my fellow panelists have said. Mentorship is so important, and it's, you know, it's wonderful to have somebody that can really take you under their wing and show you, you know, give you advice and help you navigate some challenging issues. And I definitely had that, and you know, it's wonderful.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all of our panelists, our moderator, and to all of you who joined us this afternoon. It's always an honor and a pleasure to host fellow Bears and hear about their career experience, their UNC experience, and their career paths, and such great insight. For the fall semester, we have one last alumni career panel, and it will discuss helping professions, or we'll touch on helping professions. You can register at www.unco.edu/alumni/careers. Again, thank you all so much for being here, for giving us your time and sharing such great insight. Have a great evening, everyone, and go Bears.